I don't really get a chance to make many of these vlogs just to get things off of my head and maybe share it in the universe. And if any of this can help anybody else, then well, so be it. So here we go with this. It's 2018, man. I'm here in DC, and if you've been following my journey and whatnot, for the past several years and whatnot, then you'll find some of what I'm saying now somewhat enriching or whatnot. So here it goes. So it's almost been a year since I have had this shift in my reality. I went from a lot of things that I've had, and lifestyle things and family and friends and good times and the struggle and whatnot, all trying to become antiquated into this environment as a Washingtonian. Now, after having been misplaced from a place that I had called home since 1976, after 9/11. And here I sit now trying to reflect on, how good God is, but how how awkward it still is to try to express the difference between remembering all the stress that you had, in the past, to not being necessarily capable of having to had more faith in the fact that I sit here and less stressed than I stressed about trying to get at least to here. Funny thing about growing older is, well, it's not that you grow wiser more than it's that you start trying to really look for more of a purpose of your reason for being blessed of still being here, when it seems as if the life that you lived so far can't be enough to have earned you at least this amount of peace. Not necessarily that I'm at the level of balling or woo-ha, this, that, and the other, but still, God's been interestingly sadistic in my evolution and whatnot. And I say that by way of, up until this point, I looked at things from the outside of the world of existence as an American. I traveled around the world and lived behind the curtains and the VIP and the fantasy places, and actually I've had a nice life thus far. My bucket list is a lot smaller than most people who could just, fantasize about certain indulgences that aren't even logical for me. And yet and still, feeling your upper metaphysical evolutionary mutation seeming to be more so of an expression of growth in my elder existence than my ability to be able to explain how spiritually empathic, only old people look at young people and go, you sure is lucky. Back in my day, I used to remember being younger and swearing before God itself that I would never want to be that kind of person to have to sit back and bludgeon anyone with, man, stop being a little pussy. Back in our day, we used to have to walk this, that, the other, so and so. Man, we ain't had this. We ain't have that. And realize that I'm still existing in my older age with a lot of people older than me who have even more so of a memory of an existence prior to even mine. And yet and still here we are, more healthy and existent in a world that is slowly growing, not even slowly, evolving into a environment that we never imagined would be this free, this different. I mean, I watch TV, and 2/3 of the stuff, the taboos that people would argue over their own very moral spirituality now are just commonplace. What, LBGTQYA? Oh, fine. Oh, Ismog is this, that, and the other. Fine. Oh, he's so and so and so and so. Fine. He's a this, that, and the other. Fine. While 2/3 of the struggle that our ancestors before us, and many of us still old enough to remember, from a youthful state at the time where most people who lived and loved at the late 50s to the 60s to the 70s, and then had to grow up, if they were lucky, by the 80s and 90s to now, they're at a state where you're never going to see them admit the level of dirt that they've done before cell phones and videos. And yet and still, half of that is the problem that most of the newer youth are dealing with when they're not even close to the level of danger that we've done in our dirt. Just back before condoms, back before to say no, back before be careful, back before you're lucky to make it out of the neighborhood, back before TV, back before radio, back before a reason for us to be entertained by anything other than inanimate objects, Parcheesi and fucking Battleship and playing outside. And yet and still, we lived and loved and multiplied. And now we're in a state and time where we got people suffering more so from the discomfort of not being capable or not being very successful at living too much and loving too much and enjoying too much of what they consider to be the fruits of life, when the fruits of life are living. And we're now starting to see a lot of living at a younger state just evaporate without saying, oh Lord, that could have been me, because you're not even in that demographic anymore. We still got vaccination marks, and most people don't understand what that means. You know, we weren't afraid of polo shots. Now we're afraid of shots, period. And yet and still, I'm supposed to be talking to you about something that should make some sense to somebody other than myself. And yet and still, I've almost done 10 minutes of just trying to explain to you how 2018 is a very interesting dynamic. I don't think that even the Nostradamuses and all the other philosophers of, you know, the centuries far, far past us that had some inkling of a clue that me and you would be some of the people that exist on this planet during a very interesting time of change in the world's perspective and humanity as a whole. And yet and still, I think that the most important thing that I can probably share with anyone is the mere fact that for people of color, our conditioning has been backwards. We were intentionally taught history backwards. We believe that we from everywhere else, and yet and still we live in a place that we're more comfortable than feeling the need to go back to where we were taught we came from, and that this land is our land, this land is your land, actually becomes more so of a no-brainer for people who would rather be somewhere else than suffer the existence of being stuck where they are and never have an idea what it means to be from somewhere else other than this country that we exist in. Being able to do what we're doing, what I'm doing right now. 55 years coming, and I can remember almost 45 of them vividly. And yet and still, there's more to come. So I guess the best thing that I can say with this is, ain't God good? But he's sadistic, because I'm still searching and seeking some reason for me to actually excuse the mere fact that there are more people of my color and culture that would have been more capable of doing a better job at existing with the amount of resources and blessings offered and unknown in my realm, enough for me to still feel the need to do what I'm doing right now. It's a funny saying, if I had your hand, I'd throw my hand in. I never have said that, because I don't even think the kind of cards that I'm dealt are the same kind of cards you're dealt anymore. Not a bad thing. But I wish I knew a better way of explaining to you how to play the cards that I got, just in case you get lucky enough to share them too. With all that being said, ain't God good?